What is going on, everybody? Welcome into Team Sztanyo Live. Welcome in, Sztanyo. We got a lot of things to talk about tonight. But happy Thursday evening. We're going to talk about some latest updates that's going on in Cincinnati. A big, major development downtown, potentially downtown. We'll see where it ends up landing, but it could have some major ramifications on the city, what kind of events we can have in the city. We're going to talk about that. We're going to take a look at some other major developments that are happening. We're taking a look at city council and what's going on with them, some of those votes. We're going to brush on a little bit about jobs that are coming to the area, and we're going to look at some fun properties. And then towards the end of tonight, we might actually do kind of a new segment where we are, we're going to look at a local charity. I went to a fundraising event this week, and of a nonprofit, an organization I've been a part of for years. So we'll get into that. Thinking of just having like a little bit of a Sztanyo minute, a Kingdom Corner. I don't know exactly what to call this segment yet. Maybe you guys can leave a comment and let me down, but maybe just something that's looking at something good that's going on in the Cincinnati area, right? Whether it's a charity or an organization that's serving the city in a positive way. We're going to take a look at that. All of that coming on tonight. As always, if you're watching, let us know where you're watching from. Leave a comment in the chat. Happy to answer your questions as we go along tonight as well. So glad to be here. Glad to be live again. Sztanyo, welcome in. And let's go ahead and dive into this first story for the night. So this one caught my eye. Pull this up here. Because the Heritage Bank Center is back on the table as a potential new arena site. Now, if you've been following this story or you live in the Cincinnati area, you know that city officials, organizers, leaders around the city have been trying to find where they're going to put a new arena to host these major events. Cincinnati has kind of consistently lost out on these bigger events nationwide. So whether that's maybe a political convention, or whether that's something like Indianapolis hosting the NCAA tournaments, events that are going to draw a lot of people to the city, we've consistently kind of missed out on because the Heritage Bank Center, as much as we might love it, is not great for hosting people. Well, there's been, they've been trying to figure out where to put this thing. And here's some previous renderings of where they might, or what this arena might look like. And there's kind of been 4 different spots they've been looking at. And last time I was looking at this story, my money was going to be on putting it in the West End here, over by kind of FC Cincinnati's stadium. It seemed like Jeff Berding was really trying to get it over there. And whenever he puts kind of some power and political power behind something that seems to happen, there's also potentially room over by the convention center, especially if you could kind of redo how the Bridge Forward group, if they were going to free up a little bit of acreage down here with the new Brent Spence Bridge going in. There's some room over at the casino. And currently, there's the current arena down here on the banks. And that was kind of being pushed aside as an opportunity, just like it wasn't enough space. You can't really fit it in there. But here's the story that kind of came out in the last week or so, which is that the Heritage Bank Center is back on the table as a potential new arena site. And you've got these different renderings here, and I'll show you all of these looks because I think this looks really sweet, by the way. Here's a picture of what this new arena could look like on the banks there. So local governments, stakeholders, and the Cincinnati Regional Chamber commissioned a study. When they did this back in 2024, the spot where the Heritage Bank Center is located today was ruled out because it was too small. And that has changed after Michael Schuster and his team at MSA Sport looked at the site and crafted a way to enlarge it to fit a new arena, as well as reimagine a portion of the eastern riverfront, including more park space connecting Smale Riverfront Park and Sawyer Point. If you've been down there, if you've been down the Cincinnati Riverbank, you know that Smale Riverfront, the way they've redone that, the way they've kind of connected those trails on the riverfront that you're able to kind of see Great American Ballpark and the skyline, it's pretty great. And so this idea of revisioning down here and adding even more park space seems pretty appealing to me. This company, MSA Sport, they did pro bono work. They put the riverfront site back in the conversation. It's among 4 potential sites being considered, along with the current site of WCET TV studios and the city-owned Town Center Garage, a parking lot north of the Hard Rock Casino, and reclaimed land west of the Convention Center that will become available in the wake of the Brent Spence Bridge project. So those are a couple of the other areas that I just showed you on the map. Schuster's work followed comments by Hamilton County Commissioner Denise Treehouse saying the region should strongly consider a site that utilizes the massive amount of parking spaces available at the banks that taxpayers have funded over the past quarter century. There are 7,000 spaces alone in garages and surface lots at the banks. And that total does not include the 1,180 spaces available in the East Garage, which sits east of the Taylor Southgate Bridge. So if you ever come down to a Reds game, that gets, that garage fills out a lot for Reds games. Or the hundreds of spaces at surface lots around and underneath the bridges headed into northern Kentucky. Restaurants and retailers at the banks also urge leaders to reconsider the Heritage Bank Center site, citing the sales that would be lost from wintertime events to sustain their businesses when the Reds and Bengals are in their off seasons. So the riverfront site would require moving Marion Way to the south, extending the flood wall eastward, so that flood wall that's on the Ohio River there, eliminating the public landing, which is essentially a parking lot, realigning 2nd Street East Pete Rose Way and its intersection with Broadway to open up some space on the north. But if you did all that, that result is a 6.34 acre site instead of 4.1 acres. So you're clearing up a little over 2 acres there. We've moved Marion Way before. This isn't new, said Schuster, a president of the firm. A lot of the conversation came from the idea that having a riverfront site as an option, allows us to look at leveraging the bank's development a bit more. And this is what it would take to do it. Driehaus welcomed the additional potential site, but cautioned that figuring out a way to finance a new arena is a problem. Teaser, we're going to look at that in just a little bit in terms of how to fund this thing. That is far from a solution. I've always said if we can use that built infrastructure on the banks, that makes more sense, Driehaus said. By the way, Driehaus is really, I think, the one who helped figure out this deal with Paycor Stadium. And so, she's probably been looking at the banks a lot, realizing the investment that's down there, which has got her thinking, and kind of making these statements. I'm sure, these renovations or these drawings, these renderings have been in the background, just released here about a week ago. The new arena would be built so it's at 515 feet above sea level, the same level as Great American Ballpark and the banks. The arena currently is essentially on its own land, raised about 15 feet above that. The new one would share service and loading areas with the ballpark on Broadway. MSA Sport also conceived a terrace park and plaza between the ballpark and the arena, and I'll show that in the photos in just a minute, complete with a video screen on the ceiling above the plaza with artistic activity. So if you want to draw people to the river, do things along the path that makes the path feel shorter, Schuster said. MSA Sport also proposed a shared event space between the ballpark and the arena. Smale Riverfront Park would be extended along the river between Broadway and the Taylor Southgate Bridge. The Chamber has revised its study to include Heritage Bank Center as a potential site. All the sites need further analysis to understand the particular cost. The 2024 study estimated a new arena will cost up to $800 million. It offered a number of financing options, with the public picking up 70%. For example, the non-riverfront sites may need additional parking and utilities, while moving a roadway and extending a flood wall would be unique to the Heritage Bank Center site. The original steering committee has supported an addendum to the original report, noting that the updated MSA concept proposes an expansion of the existing site to address its spatial constraints. The Chamber said the most important and urgent next step is to conduct a comprehensive cost analysis and concurrently evaluate the capital stack and sources that would make this important project a reality. Schuster and MSA Sport wanted to consider how all the pieces of downtown and the banks could fit together if the arena stayed on the riverfront. Even if the riverfront site is not selected for the arena, the ideas could form the basis for whatever eventually replaces the Heritage Bank Center, which is owned by Nederlander Entertainment. The big idea is to continue to generate a lot of enthusiasm for the idea of an arena, which I am all for. But I'm curious what you guys think about this. I agree we need this arena. Let me show you what some of these renderings look like here. I'll try to get you guys full screen here, make these a little bigger. I think this looks super slick. I mean, renderings usually do. But here's the shot that's really helpful, I think, to understand part of what's going on here. Because this is Great American Ballpark. So you're replacing the Heritage Bank Center. You're extending the park right here. Let me make this bigger. So you can see the extension of the park You can see a bridge that's going, the Taylor Southgate Bridge. Marion Way is being moved. The flood wall is being built up right down here. You can see that. But I love this idea of kind of unifying this front between Great American Ballpark and this arena. Then you've got this video scoreboard on the outside, which you could show the games. People can enjoy that from the park there. You're going to be drawing more people downtown, more people to the banks. I think that's really cool. Let me show you some of these other images. So here's kind of what it would look like from the bridge coming from Newport, lit up at night. Again, you can see that flood wall kind of built up there. You're getting rid right now. There's kind of a parking lot right down here, so you're basically getting rid of that. But to have this space down here, to have all that parking, and to be able to draw so many more people downtown, I'm, or at least at this spot of downtown, right, where the banks, where there's already a lot of investment. And I think another, looking at this one, you can kind of picture, this is helpful also to really get a feel for this entire area, and how it's connecting Paycor, Great American, and the arena. Then you can imagine, the Fort Washington Way project, which is talked about in the past, putting these different, what do they call it? Basically platforms on top of the interstate to make even more park space down there. And that would really help connect the downtown workers. And, more and more of these are being turned, a lot of these office towers are being turned into residences, just making this whole area of the banks feel more attached to downtown, adding those Fort Washington Way pads. I think that would be down the road. I think the arena is more important, getting this down here. But I think this is a really cool idea. If you stick this over by the convention center, which is kind of this side of town, I think that could make sense as well. But this is already, there's a lot of investment here, like to continue in the momentum of this area of the banks makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, the West End over by FC Cincinnati does a little bit as well. I can see that with FC Cincinnati. But, this side of town makes a lot of sense to me. To really showcase the riverfront even more. That makes a lot of sense to me. Here's another look at what the video screen sheltering a portion of a pavilion between the arena and Great American Ballpark would look like. So up here, you've got a little bit of shelter connecting the two. And let's see here. Here's another look at it from, kind of from the west side angle. It'd be really cool to get a boat dock down here as well. To be able to just boat up here and land would be super cool. Go to the ballpark. And then here's one more look at night, lit up. You can imagine Reds game going on. And I don't know if they, would do events at the same time, but just having this whole area more connected makes a lot of sense to me. A more usable, updated arena. So curious, what do you guys think about that? A lot going on there, but I like seeing new ideas. I like seeing momentum around this being built. I think there's no question we need this arena. We want to be able to land some of these bigger events that are drawing national crowds. And I think it'd be really important. Now, the question then is, how does this thing get paid for, right? That's a very valid question. So there's another article about that this week where City Council is talking about who's going to pay for this thing. Should the city of Cincinnati help pay for the new arena? So just kind of some headlines. I'm not going to dig into all of this tonight, but most of Cincinnati City Council candidates support, or at least don't rule out, the idea of arena funding. The Cincinnati Regional Chamber amended the study to include this new current site for the new arena, which we just showed you. And candidates differ on funding sources and priorities for the potential new arena. But most of them are saying let's get some funding behind this. But, again, if you are, if you're a resident and you're thinking about this, do you want to pay more if you're in the city of Cincinnati? I'm going to bring this comment up right now. Let me bring this up so you guys can see it. So thoughts on Hyde Park Square. I mean, another story that has city council right in the midst of things, right? Which was they voted in favor for the developer. And then honestly, I think what happened from the residents in Hyde Park was incredible, was amazing. And, I listened to multiple interviews on this. I listened to kind of one of the organizers of Save Hyde Park Square. And she had spent many years working on different in that area of zoning. And she said, look, we have zoning rules on the books for a reason. This is what we want. This is the height we want. We're not saying don't redevelop this. We're just saying we don't want to go higher, than we don't want you guys cramping. We want you to follow the laws. And that's kind of what the whole group was saying was we have zoning laws in place. We're not opposed to development. We want to see more commercial development, and we're okay with a hotel, but we don't want it to fundamentally change, the overall look of Hyde Park, which I get. So, I think what was really interesting on that was a lot of people in Hyde Park organized quickly, were able to get a, not a ballot. What am I thinking? I can't think of the word. I'm blanking on the word right now. A survey, basically, not a survey, help me out here in the comments chat. A petition, basically, to say like, hey, we got all these signatures on this petition and we don't want this. And then, city council completely flipped. Now I'm really curious. There's been a lot of pressure on city council right now. There's been, obviously we're coming into the election time. There's been some heat on the mayor. There's been a lot of stories. Been some bad crime around downtown and Fountain Square in particular. If you look at the overall stats, which is what city council and mayor's defense has kind of been, which is like overall crime stats are down. It's like, yes. And going downtown feels like different right now. It just kind of does in some ways. And you can't just let that go. So I think there's some pressure in terms of Hyde Park Square, in terms of different things that are going around town, in terms of this arena. And that's putting some, I'm very curious to see what happens with this election coming up here in November, coming up very soon. So yeah, Loves AGT says, yeah, follow the laws already in place. I mean, as a resident, I get that. Like from the city council standpoint, their argument was essentially like, hey, you don't want to turn down developers. Developers are going to say, Cincinnati's hard to work with. That was their argument. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I get that to a point, but when you have residents who are saying, no, we created this for a reason. Like, we don't want these special use zoning laws where you can just come in and just trump everything. I get that for a resident. It's like, no, like this is like we spent time developing this with our city council. We have these in place for a reason. Don't just come in and change everything. And so I think that was quite fascinating to watch. I thought that was a great mobilization by the residents of Hyde Park to get that together. And I'm very curious to see, I think that's why you elect officials, right? They're supposed to be representatives of you. And so to their credit, everything got changed and they reversed their votes. But, it took a lot of pressure from the residents to say, we're going to remember this in November. And, from some powerful residents at that. So, I wish it wouldn't have happened in the first place, I guess is my overall thought. I want to see more development in the city. I think most people do. We don't want to go backwards. Like, we want to be a place that is seeing new and progressive developments that are happening that make people want to come here, that make talent want to come here, that make talent want to stay in the city. That's why, again, I think this arena is really important. Like, the more amenities, because we're competing, right? We're competing on a national scale. And so the more kind of amenities we can get like this, the better, in my opinion. But yeah, in terms of Hyde Park Square, I think like that's a really special place. And I'm glad. I was personally kind of glad to see that be reversed. So I just think it's such a beautiful and charming place. Now it could use some updates. I know some of the business owners are like, hey, we want to see these spaces filled out with new businesses. So that's got to happen too. But more and more things like this, I think, are helpful for the city. That's always a tension, right? I mean, that's a tension of leading, which is like, how much do you invest in these new amenities versus be fiscally sound and smart as well with the budget. So all of that, comes with you got to have strong leadership for that. So, okay, moving on here. Next, thanks. I appreciate you jumping in the chat and asking that question. Next thing I wanted to mention here real quick was this idea of high paying jobs. This is more, again, kind of a national article, and I'm curious your guys' thoughts here, but when you think about AI and when you think about, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of things going on with AI and jobs. But what we are seeing is that there are some well-paying jobs without college degrees that are maybe a little bit more AI proof, that are happening both nationally and can be locally. Here's kind of a list of those jobs, but they involve a lot of technical work, blue collar jobs, working with your hands that pay really well. And some of these, to me, that stood out locally, there's electricians. This one right here, aircraft avionics equipment, mechanical technicians. And if you watched our live last week, I mentioned I forget how much they're investing. I want to say it was 40 million, maybe 200 million, that GE Aerospace or GE Aviation is investing in basically a school to create jobs, to create an education center for these kinds of jobs, because they've won the contracts already. There's massive amounts of contracts that have been won, and they're like, we need the workforce. So this one really stood out to me. A lot of these other ones as well, machinery mechanic, plumbers, electricians. And so, one thing I wanted to kind of point out here, I've mentioned this a little bit in the past, but these are the areas of industry that Cincinnati organizations like Ready, like BNKY, that they're really targeting. They're targeting life sciences. They're targeting business and professional services, advanced manufacturing. So going to this article of AI jobs, and as well, and technology. On the BNKY side, it's kind of the same thing, right? Advanced manufacturing. So that's going to include aerospace, automotive, material and packaging, medical device management, food and flavoring. There's the life sciences side. There's the information technology side, where you see a lot of big logistics company here locally in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, because we're so well centrally located, as well as supply chain management and support services around that. So that includes aviation maintenance, logistics management, and consulting. And so when I look at articles like this, and when I'm thinking, look, I'm not an economist, right? I'm a real estate agent. And so, take what I think for what it's worth. But, as I kind of kick this around with my friends and think through, how does Cincinnati poise economically for years to come? And I'm thinking about this not just as a real estate agent, not as a, amateur economist, as I'm trying to understand the business side of things and the ways of these things, but also as a dad, which is like, what do I want my kids to get into? And, what are the jobs that might be changing or in trouble in the future? Do they require a 4-year degree? Do I want my kids to get a degree? Probably. Like, I want my kids to be entrepreneurial. But I'm starting to feel that shift where it's certainly, the degree is not exactly where it was, 5-10 years ago. Right. And there are other educational opportunities that can happen besides just simply going to university. There's different options for that are better in terms of what the internet has provided for education options. Now, there's all kinds of other reasons to go to university or college. But, when I think about AI and specifically, and when I think about Cincinnati, and when I think about my kids, some jobs that make a lot of sense, a lot of these are these blue collar jobs that are electricians and plumbers and these aerospace and advanced manufacturing. And can you do some entrepreneurialism and ride the wave of the fact that the demand for those jobs is only going to increase? Or at least that's what I'm thinking. I'm curious what you guys think about that. So that was interesting to me. I wanted to show that article that there are more high paying jobs, and they don't necessarily require a college degree. I'm not saying don't go to college. I'm not saying, every parent should make their own decision on that with their kids. But I do think there are more and more opportunities that, a guy that I like to follow on this end is Mike Rowe and the Dirty Jobs. He used to do the Dirty Jobs. He's done a lot of shows since, but he's been kind of sounding this bell for years, which is like, I think the stat is for every kind of blue collar job, every year, 3 guys are retiring and one new employee is coming in. It's like this giant vacuum of jobs that's happening. And I think Cincinnati is just kind of an interestingly space in terms of these jobs. Let me see if I can pull this one. In terms to the logistics too. Let me see what page that's on. Competitive. I think it might be the homepage here. This is just a really helpful map right here, just how centrally located Cincinnati is. So if more and more industry is coming back, not just to Cincinnati or Ohio, but the surrounding states, it's 2 air cargo hubs. It's the fastest growing region in Kentucky. There's 8 Fortune 500 companies in the region. There's a stat, I'm trying to find it, which is like, I think you can drive to two-thirds of America's population within 1 day of Cincinnati. And so it's just strategically located for these kinds of businesses, these kinds of manufacturing businesses. And I think it makes sense to be thinking, about that. Whether you're going to be doing the job yourself, or you're thinking about creating a business around, these manufacturing blue collar type ideas. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. All right, moving on here. Another article. Some more development here. There's a $40 million high-end hotel with restaurant and bar opened up in Montgomery. It is called the Rambler. It's pretty cool. So I wanted to spotlight this because I thought this caught my eyes. It's pretty cool. This is a tapestry collection by Hilton Property, developed by a trio of Greater Cincinnati real estate developers. It officially opened up, making the completion of phase 1 at Montgomery Quarter. So this is a 128-room boutique hotel opened in Montgomery Quarter. The $40 million project marks completion of the first phase, and the hotel features a restaurant, event space, and car-themed decor. So here's a little bit what that looks like. Let me pull this up here for you guys. Just opened up in October 25. It's an invitation for the modern traveler to discover innovation, not just the places they go, but within themselves too. It's located at Montgomery Quarter, home to all. So this whole development here is really growing up in Montgomery. It's a really beautiful place to live. And the article I read around it, it's got sidecar bar and kitchen as well. Here's a little bit, here's a few additional photos, kind of what the rooms look like in terms of this. Well, are you going to load for me? Maybe not. I don't know why that one's not loading. So there's a little bit of feel for it. And then going back to this, I want to say this article said nearly 24 rooms were booked in the first 90 minutes after bookings went live this morning. So that's actually the thing that caught my eye, was how quickly it was booking out. That in 90 minutes it started booking 24 rooms. That's pretty crazy. So there's a lot of demand there. I think that's pretty awesome. Just to show you guys where this is as well, in Montgomery. So it's right, here's Montgomery Quarters right over here, right off this Blue Ash exit of 126 off of I-71 North, just north of Kenwood, and just on the northern edge of Indian Hill as well. And so one thing I think where I'm guessing some of this demand is, and partly why they built up this luxury hotel here is, if you have guests, if you live in Indian Hill, there's not any commercial development around. And so I could imagine a lot of people here would want, there's going to be some solid demand for this hotel from residents of Indian Hill, from Madeira, from Blue Ash, from Montgomery, even Marymount as well. So that's pretty cool development. I'm glad to see that. Always liking to see new developments there. Also, you can book an event there. So from stylish gatherings to intimate celebrations, their unique spaces offer modern charm and effortless hospitality. So you can, they have their own event center there as well, which is pretty cool. So I saw that, wanted to spot that out. Next up, sticking on the hotel theme, is another hotel developer is building a new 131-room Marriott on the vacant Northern Kentucky site, which is down by Ovation. So a Cincinnati developer is building a new hotel at a prime development site in the heart of Newport. Subhas Patel, principal at Keystone Hotel Group, is bringing the new 7-story, 131-key Residence Inn by Marriott to a vacant land parcel at 412 Central Avenue. So I think this is great as well to see this, right down in the heart. Let me kind of pull this up as well. So if you guys have seen this huge development down here with Ovation, let me go ahead and pull this up. You've got these beautiful new condos down here that have amazing skyline views. You have the concert venue down here as well. You have the boardwalk that's going in, and now we're getting a new Marriott right here, new Residence Inn right down here. So all of this is going to have, again, if you had the arena here, right? I mean, right now we do have the Heritage Bank Center, but just another reason why it makes a lot of sense to keep building on this, because both the Covington side here is being built up with the old IRS site, as well as the Newport side here. And all of this area, is great for enjoying the bank's arena, just walking across the bridge, enjoying all these restaurants, enjoying the professional sports there with the Bengals and Reds. And then, obviously you can enjoy events at the new arena if that were to go in right there. So wanted to mention that as well. That is going in as we speak. Let's see, when are they proposing this to be finished? Project will begin to go vertical in the next 30 to 45 days. And they are expecting it. Well, the Home to Suites is expected in fall of 2026. When is this one expected to go out? Well, I don't know if they have an end line on, but they're going to be going vertical in the next 30 to 45 days. So more development in Cincinnati. All right. Let's move along here. Again, guys, feel free to jump in the chat. Got a few more fun things, and then I'm going to wrap up for the night. But this was a new home. I saw a really cool home in Fort Mitchell this week. I showed it was about $1.9 million. But to recreate that home that I saw would have cost, oh my gosh, it probably cost $3 million to build. It was so well built. It's been sitting. They've been trying to sell it for over a year. Very unique property. Great access to downtown. Right off the Fort Mitchell exit, right near Fort Mitchell Country Club. Anyway, very cool house. This is another house that I wanted to show you guys that I think is pretty cool. This historic Clifton home. Make sure I haven't logged out here. I'll show you guys more photos in just a second. Glen Terrace hits the market for $1.3 million. So Glen Terrace, designed by James McLaughlin, is listed for $1.29 million. This 1891 home features unique architecture and a salvaged marble staircase. Listed on the National Register of Historic Places, it's attracting strong buyer interest. So this is, as we speak, pull this up for you guys. Let me give you a little details here from the MLS. This is a 7-bedroom, 4 full bath, 2.5 bath. It's got 17 rooms total. It's at 34 Clifton Avenue. It's been on the market 15 days now. Listed for $1.299 million. It is 8,650 square feet above grade. The basement has another 1,150 feet. Total finish is 8,650. Welcome to Glen Terrace, the stately home designed by acclaimed architect James W. McLaughlin for Clifton Baron Sir Alfred Goshorn. A timeless piece of history. Step into a world of elegance and Romanesque design in this magnificent home, where incredible original millwork greets you at every turn. Beautiful original stained glass from famed 3rd Street Studios, along with a stunning marble spiral staircase, leads you to the Skylight Gallery. With 7 spacious bedrooms and 6 luxury baths, this residence boasts over 8,500 square feet of grand yet practical living space. Perfect for both entertaining and family living. Situated on over 2 lush acres within the city, the property features a 3-car attached and 2-car detached garage. So showing you guys where this is at in the city in Clifton. Kind of back up here. So you're just west of the Cincinnati Zoo. You're just north of University of Cincinnati here. And you got 2 acres. Let me see if I can. Oh, here we go. The satellite. So there you go. Lots of privacy around there as well with all those mature trees. So I love that. Let's take a look at some of these photos. Oops, let me try to make this bigger for you. Okay. Yeah, look at that stone. That's beautiful. Wow. What do you guys think? Let me know. Beautiful woodwork. I need to see this hyped up spiral staircase now. Very cool. Look at those hardwood floors. There it is. They're teasing it. Stained glass. Okay. Props to this photographer. Just got to say that. Got some creative shots. Oh, okay. That's awesome. That is really cool. What a beautiful home. Okay. So there's, yeah, here's a little bit of eye candy for you guys tonight. It's supposed to be, I wonder if that's the main kitchen. Did I miss the main kitchen, or is that a secondary working one? $8,000 square feet. There is no shortage of square footage in this one, right? Wow. The stonework is just amazing. Look at those arches. Beautiful. What a cool home. Yeah, that's worth writing a story about, I would say. That is really remarkable. And you can see all the privacy here. Wow. Hmm. That's cool, man. What a gorgeous home. There's just some beautiful architecture in Cincinnati. After doing our audition here and looking at this, I'm like, way to go. I'm just kind of in awe at it. It's pretty awesome. Beautiful. Did I miss? I guess that was the primary kitchen, wasn't it? So, you're getting, when was this built? Oops. Did I read it in the article? 1891. So, not quite the same functionality as the homes that we do today, but what a remarkable, remarkable home. Beautiful. All right. Well, oh my goodness. There it is. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to about wrap up tonight, but we're going to do one more thing, which I want to do a shout out to, I don't know, again, I don't know what to call this, Sztanyo's service. I don't know. But I want to spotlight cool things that are happening in the area. This is Northern Kentucky Navigators, formerly known as Northern Kentucky Young Life. But this ministry has been around in the area since Now, Young Life has been around since the 1940s. In Cincinnati, longer. Cincinnati was probably early 90s, maybe 80s, actually. And in Northern Kentucky, Young Life began, I want to say 1996, I believe is when it began. I was a sophomore in school. In fact, I was one of the first students in a Northern Kentucky Young Life club, or one of the first schools that started. The gentleman who is, I don't even know if they're on here, on staff here, has been on staff. Here's a different committee since that time. And that's one of the things that's so remarkable to me is his name's Rick and Amy. They've been serving this area and been doing this ministry for nearly 30 years now, like maybe 29 years, which to me is just absolutely remarkable. And, the different things that come out of this ministry, there's summer camp, but then throughout the week, there are different Bible studies. There's an outreach program called Club. There's an outreach. There's a Bible study called Campaigners or Core. I think they call it Core now. They do a fall weekend camp. They do a big summer camp, and it's an amazing ministry. Here's their mission here: to know Christ, to make Him known, to help others do the same. So I've been, like I said, I've been a part of this ministry since 1996 in one way or another. I was a student for years. In college, I volunteered at the camps and at various schools as well as a volunteer leader. After I graduated college, I moved back from Nashville to Cincinnati and helped start an area in Southeast Cincinnati at Anderson High School. I met my wife through Young Life. We'll be married 20 years this December. We supported it for years. We've had Young Life leaders live in our house. Again, it's called Navigators now, but it was formerly known as Young Life for all these years. And it's just a fantastic ministry. So my wife and I went to the banquet. We took all our kids. They had childcare, the fundraising banquet this week. And it was parts of the banquet that we've seen before in terms of, giving an overview of what Young Life is and asking for fundraising, things like that. But what struck me was that they had, I want to say he was a sophomore, come up and give an extended testimony on how this ministry has impacted him and how he came to become a Christian. And it was rambling. It was not polished. It was, probably at times like, exactly what you think would happen from a high school sophomore. And it was like the most beautiful thing of the night by far. And just how powerful it was of like, hey, I was in a spot where I was unhappy and I didn't like my life, and it was built on things that wouldn't last. And then this thing kind of came crashing into my world, and it took me a while to see it. And then my eyes were opened. Was his basic testimony, and I wanted to give my life to it. Wanted to give my life to Jesus. And I'm not saying now, look, this is a real estate channel, and you guys obviously know, as me talking about this, I'm a Christian. I'm not saying you have to be a Christian or anything like that. But I wanted to spotlight ministries like this that are having such a remarkable impact on the community. Like I said, this has been going on for nearly 30 years in Northern Kentucky, and probably more on the Cincinnati side, 40 different areas, but kind of the same umbrella ministry in a way. And that kind of reinvestment, both from parachurch organizations like this one. I met with another parachurch organization this week, a good friend of mine, Nate Salee, who is on staff for Fellowship of Christian Athletes here locally. And they do a fantastic job as well in the college level in supporting coaches, which is going to support different high schools as well. But there's a lot of great parachurch organizations in the area, a lot of great churches in the area. And that's just, something I wanted to call out here. And like I said, and support, if you are looking for things to support, or if you're looking for, if you're moving here, a lot of people who watch this channel are moving here. They're like, what's going on? What are the activities? I can't recommend this organization strongly enough, to find it at your school. They're at basically every single school in Northern Kentucky. You have these, they had 91 volunteer leaders who were college age. Let's see, what's going on here? Their website's going down. Here we go. And then there's another like 25 in training. So there's like over 115, college age, young adult volunteers who were giving up 20, 30 hours of their week to try to reach high school students, to love them, to serve them in this area. And that's been happening for 30 years, to go proclaim the gospel of Jesus, which has had a major impact here. It was the other thing that was really remarkable to me and my wife as we walked in was we saw friends who we both went to school with that we hadn't seen in many years, who we were part of Young Life with, who we served as Young Life leaders together with. And now we have kids who are involved in this ministry, all these years later. Some of them are in school right now and being a part. Some of them are leaders themselves. And it's like, okay, we're old. That's one thing that made us feel a little bit old, but it was also just cool to be like, man, what an amazing thing that this has been going on for 30 years. How many people have been touched by this? And it's been a lot. You add up all the numbers and it's been a lot. So just wanted to call this out and shout this out. Like I said, I might do a small segment like this each week, maybe not to this extent, but if you guys like that, let me know. If you hate it, if you hate my guts right now, you can leave a comment about that as well. So, all right, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Exciting things. I hope we get this arena here in town. I think I'd be good with it down on the banks. It's more construction down there. It'd be kind of a mess. We got the Brent Spence Bridge. I think I'm going to be shooting a video here soon, kind of highlighting again all these big mega projects that are coming with the Brent Spence and the Paycor renovation and potentially this arena. There's other things going on as well. But tonight I wanted to focus on that, get your guys' thoughts on that. So appreciate you guys checking in and watching. Hope you have a wonderful Thursday evening. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.